We got a lot of Xbox news to go over. Specifically, there's a massive discussion going on right now about exclusivity. Once again, this is in the discussion surrounding Xbox. There's a lot of speculation right now that it could be coming back in some form. There have been some things popping up that could point towards that, depending on really what it means. So there's lots of discussion in that realm. We also have some numbers of Starfield selling on PlayStation. Very early estimates. They're not official numbers, and we don't even fully know the sourcing of this, but we will take a look at that as well. So before we get into it, if you enjoy daily gaming and Xbox news, make sure to hit the subscribe, share, and like. For now, let's get into it. So it seems like Xbox, when they're not in the news cycle for something negative or they're not stepping on a rake, the gaming news cycle still really just only wants to talk about Xbox. They dominate the news cycle with all of the stories that do come out, all of these discussions surrounding the brand. And I think so far in 2026, Xbox has had a very strong first 4 months. They haven't done anything stupid or very stupid. They've had showcases. They're having another showcase tomorrow. They're bringing the games, and I think that's where a lot of the focus should be, is talking about all of the great games that are going to be coming out. I think they're carrying in a lot of ways a fantastic year right now if you compare it to the big three publishers, the big three companies: Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox. Xbox is going to have so much this year. They're going to be the talk of 2026, especially with the 25th anniversary. You got FanFest that they're traveling the world doing, which is an awesome thing to see as well. So lots of great stuff. They haven't stepped on a major rake yet. Will they sometime this year? Probably, but they haven't yet. It still seems like the news cycle is begging and desperate to talk about Xbox, exclusivity, games. Are they coming to PlayStation? All of that, which is what is happening right now, which are the main topics that are going around. So one of the things we have heard, we've talked about previously, was the Game Pass. I think there will be changes coming to Game Pass in some way or another. There was a leaked internal memo we talked about yesterday. The other thing is exclusivity. Will they change their exclusive strategy? Now, my opinion on exclusivity is I don't really care at all. If the games are on Xbox, I can play them there. I don't want them to ever remove the whole play anywhere, take them off of PC. From the business perspective, I feel like they're doing decent on PlayStation 5 and they're going to want to keep that revenue. But if they were to pull it off of the PlayStation 5 to give more legitimacy and more power to the Xbox brand, where you have to get an Xbox or play it on PC, I can see that as a strategic business move that they potentially will do. Probably evaluate some of the games that have been doing good and some of the games that have been doing bad. In fact, that is actually, you can go all the way back to the whole business meeting. It does kind of go back to what Phil Spencer said at that business meeting, where they are going to evaluate which games are successful, which games aren't successful as they move forward here with figuring out their strategy overall. But apparently there have been big discussions happening at Xbox when it comes to exclusive games. This is via WCCF Tech, and importantly, considering a return to exclusive games, there are very, very big discussions internally. We've talked about this in the past, but again, this comes via Windows Central's Jez Corden during the latest episode of the Xbox 2 podcast. And he says, it's just about what kind of company you want to be at the end of the day. Do you want a company that's like an ecosystem company first, or do you want to be a publishing company first? Either the hardware operation will shrink to basically what Surface is now, which is like a shadow of its fullness, and for better or worse, Surface is on its deathbed. And mentions here that there are very, very big discussions internally on the matter of exclusives. And you have to ask, why would they be going back and discussing the whole exclusivity thing? And I think there's a few things. One, you have Asha Sharma, that is the brand new CEO, wants to put her stamp on the brand, wants to put her stamp on Xbox itself. And putting games on to PlayStation 5 in some ways has deteriorated the brand, just from a discussion and social aspect. When you are on social media and you see everybody talking about it, you see all the comments always about, why would I need an Xbox if it's on PlayStation, all of that stuff. And maybe she wants to move away from that. I think the whole Xbox and PC integrated ecosystem makes complete sense, and that has probably actually helped boost the brand and help boost Xbox in many different ways. The games that have landed on PlayStation 5, a lot of the things that we have seen, and this is basically follow what I thought what was going to happen, is that you're going to have games like Forza do very well. You're going to have a game like Grounded do very well. You're going to have Sea of Thieves do very well. Like those multiplayer games are doing decent on PlayStation, but the single player experiences, like I'm not shocked. Gears of War E-Day, I don't believe that one was a high charter on PlayStation. And now we have some information about Starfield. Now again, this is, I always like to say this before we talk about these analytics, because they're from Alinea Analytics and they don't really provide you the sources as to how they get their information. They use basically just public information like trophies and achievements and reviews on the store and stuff. So it's not as, I would say, reliable, even close to being nearly as reliable as Circana, which are legitimate stats that they get from the companies themselves or from their back end of the sales, like all of that. Alinea Analytics does not do that, but apparently PlayStation 5 sales of Starfield are not doing as good as some people would have thought. Starfield was a top pre-ordered game. I would have thought the sales would have been more, but as of right now, via 1 week on PS5, they're estimating Alinea Analytics, they sold around 140,000 copies on the PlayStation 5. And again, take this with a grain of salt coming from these guys, but it says, if accurate, that is a relatively weak showing for what is supposed to be Bethesda Game Studios' premier RPG and its first real new IP, whatever that actually means. Now, reality is we've seen issues popping up with Starfield on PS5. Maybe that is holding some people back after they saw those pop up to go pick it up right away. It has the Bethesda smell to it on the PlayStation 5 and the PS5 Pro. The other thing is, this is 3 years. So they come out in 2023, 3 years since the release of Starfield. And I do think there is a fall off there. If a game this big, there's so much excitement around it before the launch. If it is a timed exclusive game, which potentially could have happened for PlayStation if Xbox didn't buy Bethesda. Remember, there were the talks of PlayStation potentially wanting to make Starfield a timed exclusive. But if there's a timed exclusive game, it's been out for a number of years, most people who really want to jump in and play it are going to find another way to play it in that length of time. And that probably has an effect here on the overall sales on the PS5, again, if those numbers are correct. Once Circana drops their April numbers, we'll have, I think, a much better understanding as to how well this did do on PS5. But all of this, you put it together, and it could be Asha Sharma in meetings at Xbox thinking, is it worth it? Is it worth it to put these games on the platform to sell 140,000 copies within the week? Is the money worth it if it is going to deteriorate the brand image in certain ways? That is probably what the discussion that is happening right now. Is the return on investment going to be worth it? Right now, what we can see, there's a small little calculation here, and based off how much money they could be making potentially on the PlayStation 5 ports. We have Idle Sloth here who takes, again, these are the estimates from Alinea Analytics to put all the numbers together, and apparently they've made around 320 million so far in revenue, which to me, it sounds like a relatively big number. It sounds like it's a decent amount of money, and that's after like the whole cut that they would give to PlayStation and all of that. $320 million. And I would say that is the amount they've made right now in a shorter period of time since they started doing this. Is about 2 years since they've started this strategy, and it would probably continue to grow if they continue with putting more games on the PS5. But what is very clear here, you have games like Forza Horizon 5, which sold tons of copies, 5.7 million copies of that game on PS5, a resounding success for that game. And then as you drop under that, you see a lot of the other failures or did not do as well. But I would say this was all very, very predictable. Like I've said in my videos, I didn't think South of Midnight was going to sell very well on PS5. I didn't think Gears was going to sell insanely well, Gears of War Reloaded, because it's a game that's been out forever. A lot of people have already played it. A lot of the single player experiences, even when they put Hi-Fi Rush, that one completely flopped. So it's the multiplayer games that are going to do well. So there's a lot of things they're probably discussing. Maybe they only put the multiplayer side on PS5 and keep the single player exclusive to Xbox. But I just don't see them fully just scoffing at $320 million in revenue. But for them, maybe it's not worth some of the brand deterioration that we have seen. And I would say a lot of that is on social media. Asha Sharma seems to be very tuned in to what people are saying on social media. A lot of the moves and a lot of the things we're hearing that she potentially is going to make almost seems like it's based off of the complaints on social media, which can be good, can also be bad if it's an overreaction, but she has a lot of work cut out. So will they return to ecosystem exclusives, Xbox, PC, cloud, and not put games on PS5? Yet to be foreseen. We've heard rumors that Gears E-Day won't land on PS5. Will they still bring Forza Horizon 6? I would say that is pretty much a sure bet that they will. They're bringing over Halo campaign involved. The game is already out there for pre-orders and everything. There's no way they're going to be able to pull that off. Fable, will they bring that over to PS5? They've announced it, so it'll come at a later date. So who knows? As she said when she first took over as CEO, the plan is the plan until it is not the plan. So lots happening here. That is dominating right now, the Xbox news. And I would say all of this is just chatter right now in a first quarter of 2026, where Xbox has just been doing some great stuff, releasing great games on Game Pass. They're starting now with their first party drops. We have Kiln coming out this month. We're gonna have Forza Horizon 6, which is probably gonna be a game of the year style of game when that drops in May. So it's been a very good year so far, and I think it's going to continue to get better. But there will always be discussion around their strategy and their platforms, just simply because it seems sometimes it is up in the air and they haven't even fully solidified it. Some other stuff here that did come up, which it was just quite interesting. We'll talk about this one. The IG at Xbox team, if they're not just apparently involved with indie games, there's some other stuff that they are involved with here. So I'll just play this for you guys once we jump over here. Again, this is from the Xbox 2 podcast, Jess Gordon. He had a lot of more insider stuff and insightful stuff in this last podcast, so there's a lot of information there, but I will just play this.
These games that are going like direct to digital nowadays, they are actually handled by the ID Xbox team, even though they're coming from a like larger publisher. Like from what I've heard, is ID Xbox now handles a lot of the direct to digital publishing stuff as well for Xbox. Like it's vastly expanded its role over the years because it's been pretty damn successful, to be fair.
So that is pretty cool. ID at Xbox handles a lot more than just the ID at Xbox. I actually think the ID at Xbox team does some great stuff here. I like the indie shows that they put out. I think ID at Xbox has done a great job of getting indie games into Game Pass and get their eyes on gamers' eyes on indie games far more. Than a very good job at highlighting stuff. But apparently they also handle a lot of the direct to digital publishing, which means they're bringing more games over to the ecosystem. They are also probably dealing with the lack of physical titles that Xbox is bringing. I used to care. I don't really care about that at all really on the Xbox side anymore. If I'm buying physical games, it is on the Nintendo Switch 2, and only if it is fully on the cart or on the Nintendo Switch 1, which the games are generally fully on the cart. Xbox is my ecosystem of where I play the majority of my games and my convenience ecosystem because of Play Anywhere. There's almost no incentive anymore to buy a physical Xbox game if you are playing both on Xbox and PC, because they don't have that Play Anywhere functionality with physical games. They should have it. They should bring it. And this is actually something that they were touting back in 2013 with the whole DRM stuff with the Xbox One that everybody was completely against. But now it's like, you think about it with Play Anywhere, if you've experienced how great of a feature that is, you would want that on your physical games as well. But they are out there, they're handling the digital only games, even from big publishers. So publishers that potentially don't want to put out a physical copy, ID at Xbox is dealing with that, which is an interesting thing that I wouldn't have thought that it was ID at Xbox that did end up handling that stuff. The other thing here, and I'll go back to the exclusivity thing just simply because this is something I did want to also show when it comes to the exclusivity. We did see this pop up, and this may not be anything new because I feel like this is something that has also been there in the past, maybe as other marketing. But when we talk about them going back to the exclusivity stuff, the Xbox dashboard is actually showing something interesting here. So you can see this picture here. It says day one releases. Be the first to play new games like Forza Horizon 6 as well as Xbox exclusive. So they're in their messaging and in their marketing specifically mentioning exclusives here with a brand new massive game that is dropping in May, which is Forza Horizon 6. And it makes you go back and think, yeah, there could be something here in the works. And when we talk about Game Pass, we talked about Game Pass yesterday, the whole Call of Duty stuff. Would they potentially take it off of Xbox Game Pass? There is a clarification on that one as well that I do want to mention here again from the Xbox 2 podcast. I will again let you listen to it, and then we will end up to.
I mean, I don't know exactly what their plans are for Call of Duty in Game Pass. All I know is that they are actively exploring the whole Game Pass proposition.
Right.
And the fact that Call of Duty being in there is what pushed the price up. It was to protect Call of Duty's business model, and basically like, well, if Call of Duty is going to go in Game Pass, then Xbox Game Pass has to pay Call of Duty for those lost sales, and it can't at the current price point. So we're going to have to put the Call of Duty price up, the Game Pass price up, to charge that fee back to the Game Pass fund for the Call of Duty studios, which are monstrously expensive to operate.
So there you have it. One of the main reasons Game Pass sounds like did increase was because of Call of Duty, and they knew they were going to lose sales. We saw some of the numbers. The Call of Duty Black Ops 7 specifically, this is a year where I would say it didn't obviously live up to expectations sales wise. And if you compare this to where they were with Black Ops 6, which it broke sales numbers, even though it did land into Xbox Game Pass, this would have them sitting back and probably reevaluating whether it's worth it to keep it in there or whether they should just have a Call of Duty tier. Like keep Ultimate at $30 for people who want Call of Duty plus everything else, and then potentially just reintroduce the $20 tier where you don't get the Call of Duty, and then you could sign up to that if you don't care about that. And I think you see a lot of people going and subscribing to that tier. You probably see a lot of people transferring from premium if they downgraded from Ultimate to the tier that is without Call of Duty. And who knows what they're going to do and if they will make any changes. It'll be very telling as we get closer to Modern Warfare 4 how much they do marketing around it, and if they do mention that it is still coming into Xbox Game Pass, because at this point, if they're making the change, they'll do it probably before this year's release. I don't think they would wait another year here as we're going on to the next generations of consoles. So that was a lot of the interesting Xbox news, all of the stuff that is happening there within the world of Xbox. It is, like I said, the news cycle for Xbox this year has been very good. They have avoided a rake after having good news. Even in the most recent news that did come out, there was negative PlayStation news. They closed down studios, and Xbox did avoid the most recent rake with the Outlaw Games company or studio that was closed down. Of course, we know with Blue Point, and then Phil and Sarah retired right after that. But right now, it's very positive, and it almost seems like this is all the discussion, as there are hopes here from people right now within the Xbox ecosystem and the Xbox fan base that they go back to exclusivity. There's a lot of people that really don't care, and then there's people that just want to see bad news to start propping up this news cycle, because the bad Xbox news does bring the clicks. But I will end the video there, guys. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up. If you are new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.